My name is Michael Carter. I'm 39, live in Dallas, and on paper I looked like a man who had his life handled. Project manager at a construction firm. Mortgage drafted on the first of every month. A 9-year-old daughter, Emily, who still grabs my hand in parking lots and thinks I can fix anything with duct tape and a Saturday. A wife, Kelly, who used to tell people I was solid like it was a compliment. Steady, reliable, the guy you build with. Then somewhere in the last 2 years, solid turned into boring. It didn't happen in one fight. It was a slow drift. Her networking nights that got later and later, the wine bars, the rooftop photos with people I'd never met. The phone that used to sit face up on the counter started living face down, always about to die, always needing a charger in another room. Family things became optional for her. Emily's school play? Ugh. Babe, I forgot I already promised Megan I'd go to this event. My mom's birthday dinner? Can we reschedule? I'm exhausted. But somehow she was never too exhausted for a last-minute girls' trip to Miami, Nashville, then finally Paris. I told myself stories to keep the peace. She's just restless. It's just a phase. All couples go through this. I believed in adult marriage, the kind where you push through dry stretches, where every little fight isn't a crisis. So I swallowed the late nights. I pretended not to notice the new underwear that never showed up in our bedroom. I let "I need more excitement" hang in the air like a joke instead of the warning it really was. The night it all shifted. I was on the couch, laptop open, half watching some game with the sound off while I finished a report. Emily was at my mom's for a sleepover, trying to convince grandma to adopt a dog. The house was quiet. Kelly was 6 time zones away on her Dream Girls trip. My phone buzzed at 7:02 p.m. Texas time. I didn't jump. I wasn't that guy yet. I just picked it up like it was another one of her tourist shots, croissants, cobblestones, some moody black and white of a street musician she'd pretend to care about for 5 minutes. Instead, the screen opened on a selfie that felt like somebody had kicked the floor out from under me. Kelly, flushed from wine, pressed into a guy I recognized from old stories. Alex Morgan, the ex from her early 20s. His arm wrapped around her waist like it had never left. Her hair messy, his shirt on her, collar wide, like she'd thrown it on fast and thought that made it cute instead of obvious. Caption: reunited with my favorite guy. Some things never change. The timestamp at the top, 2:02 a.m. Paris. I just stared at it. Every little doubt I'd been patching over lined up in my head like a blueprint. Late nights, networking, girls' trips, the way her eyes slid past me when she laughed at her phone. All the times she'd said, "Relax, Mike, you're being paranoid." Like I was the problem for noticing. My stomach dropped, but I didn't throw the phone. Didn't call her. Didn't fire off some drunk, jealous paragraph she could screenshot and send to her friends as proof I was controlling. I put the phone down on the coffee table, screen still glowing with her smile. I looked at that picture one more time, at the way she was leaning into him in a way she hadn't leaned into me in years, and something in me just clicked off. Not love, not history, just the part of me that kept giving her the benefit of the doubt. Then I opened a new tab on my laptop. I typed "Family Law Attorney Dallas" into the search bar. Names and firm websites popped up. Smiling headshots, 25 years experience. Protecting your rights. I bookmarked 3 without really thinking, just methodically, like I was logging expenses for a project. Kelly's selfie was still on my screen, burning a hole in my peripheral vision. For the first time in our marriage, I didn't plan the next conversation. I didn't rehearse what I'd say to make her understand, or how we'd fix this, or how we'd get through it for Emily. I just made a quiet decision. The woman in that photo wasn't my partner anymore. She was a problem to be documented, managed, and eventually removed from the center of my daughter's life. By the time my phone buzzed again with a "Did you see this?" follow-up from her, I already had 3 consultations scheduled for the next morning. The selfie didn't end my marriage. It just made me finally stop lying to myself about the fact that it was already over. The day Kelly flew home from Paris, I worked like it was any other Tuesday. I answered emails, sat through meetings, signed off on a change order. Nobody in that office knew I'd already hired a lawyer, already sat in a quiet conference room and gone over retainer agreements, custody options, asset division. Nobody knew I'd handed over printed screenshots of that selfie like evidence in a case file. By 5 p.m., the plan was in motion. Petition filed. Temporary orders drafted. A manila envelope sitting on the side table in our living room, thick with the fact that I was done negotiating with a woman who thought our marriage was something she could step in and out of like a vacation rental. Emily was at my mom's. I told her grandma needed extra help for the night. She packed her stuffed unicorn and argued more about which pajamas to bring than about not sleeping at home. Kids have no idea how often they save you by staying simple. The house felt wrong without her. Too quiet, too clean. But it was better this way. She didn't need to see what was coming. At 11:47 p.m., headlights swept across the blinds. I heard the Uber door, the wheels of her suitcase on the concrete, the tiny pause at the front step like she was resetting her face. My heart beat faster, but not like before. No anxious waiting. No, maybe I misunderstood. Just a steady drum. Get this done. The lock turned. The door opened. "Honey, I'm home," she called, sing-song. That fake brightness people put on when they've done something they're not ready to admit. I stayed in my leather chair, laptop open, an email draft on the screen I wasn't reading. I didn't get up to hug her. Didn't even look at her right away. I let her walk in and feel the distance. She rolled the suitcase in, dropped her carry-on, and started talking too fast. You should have seen the Eiffel Tower at night, and would have lost her mind. Oh my God. The food. Babe, you don't even know. Her voice trailed off when I finally looked up. Hey, she said, tone shifting. What's with the murder face? No murder face, I said. My voice sounded like it does in a status meeting. This came while you were gone. I stood, picked up the manila envelope, and handed it to her. She frowned, confused, already annoyed, tore it open with the same impatience she used on Amazon boxes. I watched the moment her eyes found the header. Petition for dissolution of marriage. The color drained out of her face. Mike, what is this? This isn't funny. It's not a joke, I said. I filed last week. Her gaze snapped up to me, wild now. Because of one stupid selfie? Seriously? It was a joke. Alex is an old friend. We were just 2:02 a.m. Paris time. I cut in. His shirt. Your caption. Some things never change. She blinked fast, mouth opening and closing like she was trying on excuses and discarding them. You're overreacting, she said finally. We were drinking, we were messing around. It's not what you think. You're going to blow up our family over. Our family was already blown up, I said. The paperwork just caught up. Her breathing got loud. Where's Emily? I want to see my daughter. She's at mom's, I said. I didn't want her here for this. You don't get to decide that. Her voice went sharp, shrill. You don't get to just send her away and serve me like I'm Kelly. I kept my tone level. From now on, anything about this goes through the lawyers. Not through yelling in our foyer at midnight. She stared at me like I'd slapped her. You'll come crawling back, she said, voice shaking. You always do. You hate being alone. Remember? I picked my laptop up, tucked the cord under my arm. No, I said. Not this time. I walked past her, up the stairs, feeling her eyes burning into my back and hearing the rustle of paper as she clutched the envelope like it might disappear if she squeezed hard enough. Halfway up, it hit me. 4 years. I'd been the one chasing, smoothing, apologizing, bending so she wouldn't break. Now I wasn't the one crawling anymore. The thing about modern cheating is it never really stays private. People document everything. Even the stuff they swear didn't mean anything. Kelly left that night, envelope in hand, to get some air at Megan's place. Translation: spin control. By the time she hit the elevator, my phone buzzed. It was my brother Jake. Jake, you sitting down? Screenshot attached. It was a group chat I'd heard about for years. Kelly and her friends, the Wolf Pack. I'd never seen inside it until one of them got a conscience and started forwarding things to Jake. I sat at the kitchen table, coffee going cold, and scrolled. The Paris trip was all there like a prosecution exhibit. Kelly and Alex pressed together in dim cafes. Walking along the Seine, her head on his shoulder. Breakfast at his place. His kitchen, his mug, his shirt on her again, captioned, "When room service just isn't as good." Story after story. Some are still up, some already deleted. It didn't matter. Screenshots live longer than regrets. Then came the messages. "Megan, girl, you are playing with fire." Another friend, "Are you actually staying at his place tonight?" Kelly, "Relax. I deserve a little happiness. It's just one night. Mike will never know." One night, my wife was in another man's apartment, while I was home answering our daughter's question about whether mom was bringing her back a snow globe. Later, Jake forwarded a text Megan sent him directly, guilt bleeding through the words. She confirmed what the pictures already screamed. Kelly hadn't just grabbed a silly selfie after too much wine. She'd packed an emotional go-bag long before she boarded that plane. I scrolled until my thumb hurt. Comments from her friends underneath the photos, half jokes, half warnings. "Don't come crying when this blows up. Hope he's worth the drama." By the time I put the phone down, the narrative was clear. That 2 a.m. selfie wasn't a mistake. It was a victory lap she thought she could run in secret. All I did was decide I wasn't going to be the idiot in the background of her highlight reel. You think the worst part is the moment you find out. It's not. The worst part is realizing your kid lives in the same world as everybody's screenshots. The morning after I served Kelly, my mom, Linda, did school pickup. I was at work pretending to care about a subcontractor dispute while my phone buzzed in silence. When I finally checked it, I had 3 missed calls and a text from her. "Call me. Now," she told me in that clipped voice she uses when she's holding herself together. Kelly had shown up in the school parking lot, marching toward them like she still owned the title Mom without any qualifiers. She tried to take Emily, Mom said, told her to grab her backpack. They were going home. "And?" I asked. "And I told her no," Mom said. "I told her until the lawyers work this out. Emily is with you or me. Not some woman who thinks Paris is more important than her child." Apparently Kelly didn't like that. Voices got raised. Words got sharp. And in the middle of it, Emily stood there hugging her backpack, eyes bouncing between them. "Are you and Daddy going to be like Emma's mom and dad now?" she asked. 2 grown women arguing, and that's what my daughter wanted to know. Not about flights, not about Paris, not about who cheated. Just, are we breaking like everybody else? Mom said Emily chose to get in her car. "Grandma makes better mac and cheese anyway," she told Kelly, like it was a joke. That throwaway line hit me harder than the divorce petition. By the end of the day, the Paris photos had leaked past the friend circle. Jake texted to say guys at his office were passing them around. A neighbor accidentally mentioned seeing them in a mom's Facebook group. Even the school parents thread was buzzing. The next morning, I watched Emily walk into school with her too big backpack while 2 moms at the gate whispered behind coffee cups. If someone was going to be the villain in this story, I decided it damn sure wasn't going to be Emily's dad. Jake was the one who pushed for the dinner. "Just one night at Mom's," he said. "Neutral ground. Talk like adults before this turns into a full-on war." I didn't believe in neutral anymore, but I did believe in my mother's dining room. For walls that had seen every version of me. Kid, screw up, new dad, tired husband. If anything was going to end, it might as well end there. Linda cooked like it was Thanksgiving, roast chicken, potatoes, green beans, bread from the good bakery. Emily was in the kitchen, standing on a chair, stirring something she didn't need to stir, loving every second of Grandma treating her like a sous chef. Kelly walked in wearing the perfume I bought her 3 anniversaries ago. Hair done, lips glossed, smile on like she could sell us all a timeshare in her regret. "Hi," she said softly. "Thanks for doing this." Jake looked like he wanted to be anywhere else. He poured water like it was whiskey. We sat. Plates were passed. Emily chattered about school, about a science project, about nothing and everything. For 20 minutes, it looked almost normal. Then Mom took Emily back to the kitchen to help with dessert, and the air changed. I set my fork down, wiped my hands on my napkin. I pulled my phone from my pocket and a slim folder from the chair beside me. Kelly watched, wary. "What's that?" she asked. "This," I said, "is why we're not talking about overreacting anymore." I opened my phone first, hit play on a voicemail. Her voice filled the room, slurred at the edges. "Alex, I can't stop thinking about you. Being there felt so right. I wish I could just come back to Paris and never deal with this life again." Jake closed his eyes. Kelly went pale. "Stop it," she whispered. "Mike, stop." I let the voicemail finish. Then I slid my phone across so she could see the call log. Multiple messages. Multiple nights. I opened the folder. Spread out printed texts in neat rows. Her messages to Alex about feeling trapped in our marriage. About how she was already halfway gone before she booked the flight. About how Emily would adjust because kids are resilient. Receipts from hotels she hadn't mentioned. GPS logs from nights she'd said she was at Megan's. Screenshots of the Paris stories, the breakfasts, the shirts, the river walks. Finally, the picture of her asleep in his bed, hair spread on his pillow, his shirt riding up her thigh. She'd sent it to him with a heart emoji. He'd saved it. Someone else had sent it to us. I didn't raise my voice, didn't lean across the table. I just lined the papers up like a project timeline and let the silence do the work. "Say it," I said quietly, out loud. "Not joke Selfie. Not old friend. Say what you did." Tears finally came. She gripped the edge of the table like it was moving. "It was one night," she choked. "One stupid night. It didn't mean anything, Mike. I was drunk and lonely and—" "Did you sleep with him?" I asked. "Yes or no?" She looked at Jake, then at the doorway, like there might be an exit if she stared hard enough. "Yes," she whispered. "Okay, yes. I slept with him." Right then, a small voice cut through the room. "You slept at another man's house, Mommy?" Emily was in the doorway holding 2 dessert plates. Linda stood behind her, face tight. The whole world shrank to that one question. Kelly started crying harder. "Baby, it's complicated." "No," I said, standing. My voice was gentle, but I didn't lie. Mom made a choice that hurt our family. Because of that, she and I are going to live in different houses from now on." Her eyes filled. "Like Emma's mom and dad?" "Yeah," I said. "Like that. But you're not losing either of us. You're just not going to see us in the same house anymore. Okay?" She nodded, slow and stunned, and walked back to the kitchen, plates wobbling in her hands. I sat back down, looking at the mess of papers between us. "This isn't about revenge," I told Kelly. "It's about consequences. For you. And protection for Emily. I'm done pretending this is something we can talk our way out of over dinner." For the first time since Paris, she seemed to believe me. I didn't find out we were trending until a guy from IT couldn't look me in the eye. I walked into the office, coffee in hand, ready to bury myself in spreadsheets. Whispers dropped off a little too fast. Tabs got closed when I walked by. My boss gave me that careful, "Hey, everything okay at home?" look and then backed off like I was radioactive. At lunch, Jake texted me a link. "You're gonna want to see this." Sorry, man. It was a local gossip blog. One of those Dallas Tea accounts I used to scroll past without caring. Now my last name was in the headline next to words like affair and Paris fling. They had the selfie, the breakfast shot, the river walk. Somebody had stitched the whole thing into a neat little narrative about a Dallas mom risking it all for love overseas. I was a shadow in the background, referred to as the husband like I was a prop, not a person. An hour later, Kelly tried to get ahead of it. She posted a long, polished note on Instagram, a crying selfie, a paragraph about being a heartbroken mom fighting for her family, hints about controlling behavior and emotional abuse. Nothing specific, just enough to plant the idea that I was the bad guy, that the Paris thing was a symptom, not the disease. For a minute, it worked. Comments poured in. "You're so strong, Queen. Men can't handle a woman having fun. Narcissists always try to punish you when you leave. I read every word. Not because I believed any of it, but because I wanted to know exactly what kind of story she was trying to sell while our daughter was at school asking if her life was over. Then the local TV station called. Not me. Her. She couldn't resist the attention. Did a sit-down interview like she was the lead in a sad movie. Soft lighting, tissues on the table, careful makeup. I watched it from my couch, remote in my hand, and the living room dark. She told the reporter she'd made a mistake, that her husband was rushing to punish her instead of working on the marriage. She talked about being isolated and controlled, and painted a picture of a man I didn't recognize. Then the reporter did something I didn't expect. She pulled out the receipts, literal ones, printed screenshots of now-deleted photos, quotes from Alex's food blog where he'd bragged about reconnecting with an old flame from Texas, timestamps that lined up with my lawyer's folder, late-night messages, hotel stays, apartment visits. On live TV, the careful script fell apart. Kelly stammered, tried to pivot. The reporter just kept calmly asking, "So how does that fit with what you're saying now?" By the time the segment ended, whatever sympathy she'd hoped to bank was leaking out fast. Jake texted, "If you wanted public vindication, you just got it." I stared at the blank TV screen after it was over, feeling exactly nothing like victory. The next day, Emily's school counselor called. She spoke gently, professionally, like she'd done this 100 times. "Emily's been asking some hard questions," she said. "She wants to know if kids always have to go live with their dad when their mom is bad." She used that word. Bad. Any satisfaction I might have felt about the truth winning on TV evaporated in one shot. This wasn't about trending or headlines or who strangers on the internet believed. It was about my 9-year-old trying to figure out if love was something you lost the second you messed up, or if there was any version of family left that wasn't broken beyond repair. The courthouse conference room felt less like a place to talk and more like a place where things go to die. Fluorescent lights, cheap table, carafe of coffee nobody touched. On one side, me and my attorney, Karen Douglas, in a navy suit that said she'd seen this 100 times. On the other, Kelly, a little too done up for a meeting that wasn't about her image, and her lawyer, already sweating through his collar. Karen opened her folder like it was just another Tuesday. "We're here to discuss temporary custody, support, and visitation," she said. "No drama, no edge, just facts." She walked through the affair like a checklist. Dates, receipts, GPS logs from nights Kelly said she was with Megan, screenshots of Paris, transcripts from the TV interview where Kelly had tried to spin and then slipped. Kelly flinched here and there but mostly stared at the table, jaw tight. Then Karen flipped to the section that actually hurt. "Emily Carter," she read. "Age 9. There was a report from the school counselor. Drawings of 2 houses, one labeled Dad's, one labeled Mom's, a crack between them. A stick figure in the middle with the caption, 'Me, problem.' I'd seen it before, but hearing it read out loud in that dry conference room tone felt like getting punched slow. She's expressed guilt," the counselor had written. Belief that her existence contributed to marital conflict. Anxiety about being forced to choose between parents. That, more than any photo of Kelly in somebody else's shirt, was what made my hands curl into fists under the table. Karen laid out our proposal. Primary custody with me, a clear schedule, supervised visitation for Kelly until she completed counseling and a parenting class. Agreement that neither of us would discuss case details with Emily or use her as a messenger. It sounded harsh on paper. Sitting there, it sounded like the only sane option. Kelly's lawyer objected on cue. Disproportionate, punitive, not reflective of my client's commitment as a mother. He talked about one mistake and internet amplification. Karen didn't take the bait. "This isn't about punishment," she said. "It's about stability." Ms. Carter chose to prioritize an affair that played out publicly. The child has already suffered social fallout, emotional distress, and exposure to adult issues. Mr. Carter is asking for structure. That's it. For a second, the room went quiet. Then Kelly finally spoke, voice small. "Mike, please," she whispered. I said I was sorry. "We can fix this. We can go to counseling. We can start over. Don't take my daughter away from me." I looked at her. Really looked. Past the makeup. Past the shaky voice. Past the version of her that had once been my person. "There's nothing left to fix," I said calm. "You blew up the marriage. I'm not going to let you blow up Emily's life on top of it." Tears started again. "So that's it? You're just done with me?" "I'm not here as your husband," I said. "I'm here as her father." And that was the line. Not drawn in a fight at midnight. Drawn in ink. In a courthouse with my daughter's name at the center of the page instead of my own hurt. 6 months is long enough for chaos to turn into routine. The house I live in now is smaller than the old one, but it's mine. No ghost of a marriage in the walls. Just scuffed baseboards, chipped paint, and a front hall where Emily's soccer cleats stay parked by the door, no matter how many times I tell her to put them away. Her science project is spread across the kitchen table, poster board, markers, glue stick without a cap. She's doing something about volcanoes. Controlled explosions, she calls it. I try not to laugh at the metaphor. Our life runs on simple rhythms now. School drop-off with her half asleep in the passenger seat. Hair a mess. Backpack unzipped. Work for me. 4th grade for her. Pickups where she climbs into the truck and immediately starts talking about some kid who cheated at Foursquare or a substitute who didn't know the routine. Pancake Saturdays. Therapy Tuesdays. At first, therapy was a battlefield. She'd sit on the couch, arms crossed, answering everything with fine or I don't know. Now she'll at least look at the counselor and say things like, "I don't like when people whisper about us," or, "I don't want my mom to be bad. I just want her to stop lying." That's what progress looks like at 9. Her grades dipped for a while. Then they started climbing again. Not perfect, but hers. Same with her mood. Less crying at night. Fewer "will you leave too?" questions. More dumb kid stuff, eye rolls, jokes about my dad jeans, arguments about screen time. Kelly lives across town in a smaller apartment. She took an entry-level job after getting politely phased out of the social circle that used to revolve around her. Actions have a way of cashing in the credit you thought you had. Our interactions are scheduled now. Supervised visits at a center that smells like disinfectant and worn-out toys. An hour, sometimes 2, of awkward but civil time. Emily always goes, always comes back quiet, always talks about it on her own clock later. I don't trash talk her mother. I don't need to. Kids see what they see. Do I still get angry? Sure. There are nights I stand at the sink washing dishes and that Paris selfie flashes in my head like it's still on my phone screen. The old version of me, the one who thought steady effort guaranteed you a loyal wife, still stings. But here's the thing. I'm proud of the man washing those dishes. Not because I handled everything perfectly. I didn't. I had moments I wanted to scream, to burn it all down, to blast her online and let the crowd eat what was left of her reputation. I didn't. I documented. I acted. I drew lines around my daughter and myself and refused to move them, even when people called me cold, harsh, unforgiving. That selfie everyone talks about, it didn't destroy my marriage. It just exposed the truth that was already there, that I'd been living next to someone who had one foot out the door and a backup life on standby. This isn't a revenge story. It's a boundary story. About a man who finally believed what he was seeing instead of the excuses he was being fed. Who chose his daughter's stability over his own ego, over the fantasy that you can fight for your marriage alone, while the other person is in someone else's bed. Some nights, after Emily's asleep and the house is quiet, I sit at this same kitchen table with a notebook or my laptop and write pieces of it down. Not because I enjoy reliving it, but because turning it into a story makes it containable. It means I'm not just the guy this happened to. I'm the guy who learned from it. I used to design my life like a straight line. College, career, marriage, house, kid, retirement. Now I know it doesn't work like that. Life is messy. People are weak. Lines get crossed. What matters is the line you draw when you finally wake up. If some other husband or wife hears this and recognizes the slow erosion, the tilted phone, the "you're overreacting" gaslighting. Maybe they won't wait for a viral picture to force their hand. Maybe they'll listen to that sick feeling in their gut sooner. Because one selfie didn't end my life. It just pushed me to finally start living it on my own terms. Most nights now, this is how it looks. Emily's bedroom door is closed. The soft hum of some kids' show leaking under it. Dishwasher running. The street outside is quiet. And me at a cheap desk in the corner of the living room. Lamp on, laptop open. That old evidence folder sitting on the floor next to my chair like a dog that followed me home and never left. After the court dates ended and the custody orders were signed, there was this empty space where the fight used to be. No more scrambling for documents. No more late-night strategy calls with Karen. No more adrenaline spikes every time my phone buzzed. Just me, silence, and a pile of memories I didn't know what to do with. So I started writing. At first, it was just bullet points. Dates. What was said. How it felt sitting in that leather chair with the envelope on the table. The way my hand didn't shake when I typed, Family Law Attorney Dallas. The sound of Emily asking if kids of bad moms always have to live with their dads. Then the bullet points turned into paragraphs. Paragraphs into scenes. Not out of revenge. If I wanted revenge, I'd have stayed online, feeding the crowd. This was different. This was me trying to make sense of how a quiet, dependable man ended up Googling custody laws with a knot in his throat while his wife played tourist with an ex across an ocean. Writing it down gave me back some control. On the page, I'm not just the guy staring at a glowing selfie. I'm the narrator who can pause, rewind, zoom in on the details I used to shrug off. The way her eyes slid past me at dinner, the first time she tilted her phone away, the way "you're overreacting" became her favorite shield. It let me move from "why did this happen to me?" to "what did I ignore?" and "what did I do right once I stopped ignoring it?" So if you're hearing this and you see yourself anywhere in it, maybe you're the one getting lied to, maybe you're the one doing the lying, here's what I've got for you. Don't wait for a viral scandal to tell you what you already know. Don't wait for a lawyer's envelope to prove you're not crazy. Don't let your kids be the ones connecting dots you were too scared to look at. Listen sooner. Act sooner. And understand this. The lines you draw around your dignity, your sanity, and your kids' safety are not cruelty. People will call them that. They're wrong. Those lines are the reason I can sit here tonight, in a small quiet house, with my daughter asleep down the hall, and tell this as a finished chapter. Not an ongoing disaster I'm still drowning in.
Subscribe and stay one step ahead of cheaters. And trust me, the next story makes this one look like a fairy tale.